I'm going to talk about what I'm going to talk about so that I know how to talk about it. You can quote me on that. We've been nurturing and monitoring some monarch larvae or caterpillars and then chrysalis, and this beautiful butterfly just hatched. You can see its chrysalis underneath, but it's a brand new baby butterfly. Can't fly yet. We have milkweed all over the yard that we keep because this is the only food source of the monarch caterpillar.
Saving it because Foxy keeps trying to get it.
So fragile. It's amazing any of them survive.
I know, we've been watching it all day, that and the other. And,
how long has it been hatched?
This one about 4 or 5 hours. The other one that's over there is more than that, and it's not flying. Only one flew away today.
For those of you that are not familiar with dips or a dip bar, this is something I've constructed that I'm going to show you in a moment how it works and how simple it is. A dip is essentially 2 parallel bars. Put your hands down. I like to get a nice stretch at the bottom and then push myself up till my arms are straight, and then lower myself down, and that's a dip. And for a long time I wanted a dip bar but wasn't sure how to create one here in the studio, especially to create one that I could disassemble really easily. This is actually made of trampoline parts. Lots of people get trampolines, their kids play with them for a while, the kids go off to high school, college, they get too old, they stop using the trampoline. These end up in the dump, or in the case here in Bennington, in the metal pile. So I have seen many trampolines at the metal pile at our dump, or what they now call the transfer station. So I've got 2 uprights on either side, which are part of the circular rim, or the circumference of the trampoline, what holds the netting together to make a circle. And it's quite large, so the curve is really nice for this particular instance because it helps support my weight. And these in the back are part of the uprights, which these are straight bars. So basically all of this was found together as a disassembled trampoline. And how I use it now, I simply pick this up, kick it out like that. I've taken some PVC pipe, which is 1-inch PVC pipe, and I cut it to about 10 inches long, and it fits in here and fits in here. This is an end cap, which just comes off a little rusty. So some T end caps. I put that on like that. I put this in like this, and then I put it in here. And then I just stabilize that, and it's very sturdy. It doesn't feel like it's going to pop out at all. So super simple solution. I kick it out when I want to move it at the bottom, and this just slides out. I've got another T here, and I've done the same thing on the other side. And basically what I did is I took some 1x1 lumber, which you can buy at Home Depot, and I slid 2 T's over the 1x1, and then just bolted the 1x1 to my shelving unit. And I put an extra upright in here to support my weight, but it's so sturdy that I probably didn't need to do that. So now when I want to take this apart, I'll pop these out, move that, and the dip machine is gone. And to put it back together in 30 seconds or less, boom, 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 and boom. And you have to say boom every time you put something together. That's essential. Just kick those in, get them upright, and there we go. So free materials that you can find anywhere. You might even know somebody that's getting rid of a trampoline. You may have a trampoline that you don't use anymore. And this is a very simple way to create a dip bar that is easy to take apart, and you don't need to weld it or bolt it or put any other kind of hardware in it. You just need 10 inches of PVC pipe in either side and you're good to go. This is very solid. Free dip bar. I'm about to head into the orthopedics office, gonna have my arm checked out, and I'm seeing one of my favorite doctors. She worked for the World University Games in Lake Placid this winter. She specializes in sports medicine, so hoping that she can help figure out what's going on with my arm and get me back in the game. Here we go. Afternoon Bigfoot light stroll in a slight drizzle. I don't know what kind of flowers these are, but they're all over Vermont wetlands. What's your name? Oh, yes. Who are you? Thank you. Thank you. Come back. Come on. Come back. Yeah. What you doing? What you doing? You coming up? Are you coming up? Oh. Yeah. Yeah. You're sweet. You're a sweet boy. There you go. Okay. We'll see you later. I'm out and about doing some errands and thinking about the doctor's visit this morning. It turns out that I likely have tendinitis in the tendon between my bicep and forearm, but more importantly, I have a broken elbow. She saw 2 cracks in the x-ray and she thinks it's related to the roller ski crash. It has nothing to do with pull-ups or digging, anything like that. So there's not a lot she wants to do with that, if anything. They're small. She just doesn't want me to load this arm at all for 6 weeks. So I don't need to have it in a sling or a cast, but I've got to be really careful with it. She set up an MRI, so we're going to see what's going on with the tendons or if it's something else. But 6 weeks of no loading, no pull-ups, nothing like that. I asked her if I could do dips, and based on where the cracks are, she said that's okay, just don't do a lot. And if you feel any pain whatsoever, stop immediately and don't do them for 6 weeks. So we'll see if dips are doable. Anyway, I have a broken elbow. It's funny because when she came in after having looked at the x-ray, she said, "What you told the nurse about digging and pull-ups, that's not what I'm seeing in the x-ray. Tell me about this Band-Aid on your arm." And I was like, "Oh, I was in a roller ski crash, but that has nothing to do with the pain." And she's like, "Dude, take a look at the x-ray." And I said, "Yeah, but I didn't impact that part. I just slid on the pavement. I impacted my right hand." And she said, "Sliding on the pavement is an impact. You have to hit the pavement before you can slide on it." Anyway, it's kind of funny, but not funny as well. So roller skiing is dangerous. It is dangerous, and I really wish that I didn't have to do it. But that's the sport I'm in. I could do more hill bounding, but that doesn't really help with skating technique. But it would get me fit. So I don't know. We'll see. But that's the dilly. Came over to Albany to do some shopping with the Swede and just did a roller ski on the Helderberg to Hudson rail trail, which is really nice. Goes from the Helderbergs, which are really cool mountains with caves and waterfalls, all the way down into downtown Albany and the Hudson River. Really beautiful if you're ever in this area. Ooh, it's a double rainbow. In a lot of my recent videos, you hear me talk about identity. And I'm not sure how well I have defined that term, so I thought I would do so now because I think it's quite relevant to something that I see on a regular basis and something that I experienced last night that I've been thinking about. So we can think of ourselves as two components. We have our total beingness, and then we have our virtuality, which means that I have a body in the world and a brain that is responding to that world, but then I also have a modeling engine inside of my brain, which I will call identity space. And this modeling engine helps us make predictions about what our body is likely to encounter in the world. And because our bodies are part of social networks, this identity space and the model that it's a part of is very much about the social body. So we model and simulate ourselves physically and socially in this virtual modeling engine inside of our brains, which many of us simply call our minds. But I prefer to call it identity because it's very much related to who we are in relation to the world within this simulation, not necessarily within the world outside. So how that's relevant right now. When I listen to people talk, I'm very tuned in to the words that they use to describe what they like, what they don't like, what they can do, what they can't do, etc. They model and predict their experience and therefore create expectations. So one of the ways this can show up is I look outside the window, it's cloudy, it looks like it's going to rain. I'm not going to roller ski today because I'm not going to like it. Now, I know that that prediction is most likely inaccurate. I have so many hundreds, if not thousands, of data points demonstrating that if I were to go outside, I would actually have a really good time. So me as a being has a very different present experience than me as a modeled, simulated identity, imagining what that experience is going to be like, coming up with a prediction, and then making a choice. No, not going to do it, not going to like it. So where this showed up most recently, I was talking to someone last night and we were talking about food choices, and they immediately had a strong reaction to a type of food that they've never had before, that they've never even seen before. But they imagined and predicted that it was going to be awful, and they scrunched up their face and said things that were not kind to this food. But had they ever put it in their mouth and had a physical experience of tasting it? No. Had they seen it? No. But based on the limited set of data that their identity constructs its predictions with, they came to the conclusion that this was not going to be a pleasant experience, had somewhat of a physical reaction to a food they've never even interacted with, and then said, no, I don't like it. But what is this I that you speak of? Is this I a virtuality? Is this I just thought space? Or is this I your body in the world? For most people, when they say I, they mean the virtual identity space. But what I have learned is I have these two different ways of being in the world and experiencing the world. But sometimes the real world and the virtual world get overlapped, and the virtual world sits on top of the real world, and we don't allow ourselves to experience the actual experience our body is having. Instead, it's our predictive experience that dominates. So not only do I see this with food and exercise, but I see it everywhere with different types of people. Like, I don't want to interact with that person because of what they're wearing or what they look like or their age or whatever. Prejudice is built inside of this identity space because there is a limited set of data that identities work with. But me outside of identity, I'm simply curious. I don't know how things are going to go. I have the predictions. I see it. Sometimes I feel it. Sometimes I have a reaction prior to something. But I know that that's not the actual experience. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for that prediction. But I'm going to go take a step in the real world with my real body and find out. So that's something that has been so important for me to not only understand, but to implement, to experience this shift. I'm not going to like it. Let me try it. Oh, I actually like it. Okay. Didn't imagine that. All right. The Swede just noticed that I had a winged pattern of sweat on my shirt after roller skiing. Hey, Mama. Pretty Mama. Decided to take the Swede to the mile-around woods. I almost called it the beach forest, because that's where she took me in Sweden, but this is a beach forest. The squirrels are chucking beach nuts at us. Anyway, I'm doing a Bigfoot through the forest, and it burns, and I like it. This little beech tree got stumped and went total Hydra. Having a conversation with the Swede about Google Bard, which is Google's version of ChatGPT, and how it's so easy now to think that you understand a book just because you asked Google Bard or ChatGPT or Bing to do a review or a synopsis for you. And one of the things that we were discussing is that as the Swede and I have gone through Judith Butler's Gender Trouble together, probably spending 8 or 10 hours on the book, that we had different conversations about what was being said in different places at different times in the midst of different activities. And all of that gets incorporated into your experience of the book. But when I asked Google Bard to write a quick summary of the book, as I was thinking about doing a review, because the book is so complex, where do I begin doing a review and actually diving into what she's saying? There's just too much, and it's intentionally confusing. So, Google Bard, could you write me a summary of Judith Butler's Gender Trouble? And boom, there it is in 15 seconds, and it was very well done. And I'm like, yep, okay, yep. But it missed this, this, and this. So someone could look at that and think they understand the book, but not only will you be missing a lot of the information that's in the book, you'll also be missing the repetition of the information, because most authors repeat themselves ad infinitum. Maybe that's because the publishers demand a longer book, or because good authors recognize that if you only hear something once, you're likely to forget it. But if they keep bringing it up again and again, you're likely to remember it, or at least more so. But more than that, it's also that you miss the varied experiences that you have while interacting with the book. And this is why I prefer audiobooks to written books and reading. Because in order to read, I've got to sit. And I can't move through the world. I can't really have conversations. I can't be in the midst of an activity while interfacing with the book. So, for instance, if I were listening to it right now in these woods, the woods would become part of my experience of the book. And this is something that has really helped to shape how I learn. So, just looking at a summary that ChatGPT or Google Bard or Bing might produce, I think is sadly lacking, and I hope that people don't think that they understand books just because they read the summary, or maybe even avoid a book because of what they saw in the summary. We have come to the end of another week, and in the training world, I am bouncing back up to my previous volume. I'm just shy of 21 hours for this week, and again, that's not planned, it's just happening. And interestingly, the 21-hour weeks that I was putting in the past included a lot of Bigfoot light on the treadmill, but I haven't been doing that. So I'm increasing my volume without the treadmill. And for a while, I was down to a little over 2 hours a day because the treadmill was missing. But now my body has decided that elliptical, roller skiing, and strength training It wants to do more of all of those. So we shall see what happens from here, but I'm feeling pretty good. I'm doing more resistance on the ellipticals so I can feel my legs getting stronger, but I'm also tired as I walk around. I'm also noticing some changes in my strength training. I'm doing less volume but higher intensity dips and pulling machine, which I will show you here in a second. I'm also taking more rest days than I have in the past. I used to do pull-ups every single day, but now it's dips, pulling, and every now and again I'll get on the leg extension or bench machine. That was a pretty good day of pulling and dips, and it's nice to be able to crank out sets of 12 or even a set of 15 without really feeling close to my maximum. And that is a pretty hard day. C1, C2, C3, those are very heavy weights on the pulling machine. So rather than going by minutes, I'm just going by repetitions. So that burns. That's pretty intense. And a tiny bit of bench and leg extension, I would really call that a rest day. Then on Friday, 40 minutes of pulling, very easy dips. Then on Saturday, easy pulling, leg extension, just one set, just moving the legs around. And then on Sunday, going to minutes rather than reps. And that was intense. 1 minute at C2 burns. And again, this is all experimental. I'm not forcing myself to do things that hurt. If my body wants to engage that way, I allow it. I notice myself coming over and stacking more weight on the pulling machine. I'm not choosing to do it because it's on a schedule. I just notice that it's happening and I allow it to take place. I grab the pulling straps and I just start pulling and I see what happens. So again, I'm allowing myself to be pulled into certain activities rather than pushing myself unwillingly. And right now, my body wants to do more intensity and I'm allowing that to happen. And I'm also taking more rest days because if you're going to go harder, you have to rest more. So that's what's been going on in the training world. I'm seeing my body change in some different ways, which is interesting. And yeah, I look forward to the experiment. See you in the next one.